Hello and welcome to the Paycor Pulse Analytics Deep Dive. By now, you've probably heard a lot about Paycor Pulse, the benefits of listening to employees, and how easy it is to launch a survey. Let's build on that knowledge by walking through a sample analysis. After a survey closes and meets the 5 response minimum, you will see an available analysis here. Pulse has built-in measures to protect employee identity in several places. If a survey returns less than 5 responses, the survey will be unable to generate analysis to ensure employee confidentiality. When viewing an analysis, the first item you'll see is the analysis overview, which serves as a high-level dashboard to give you immediate insights into how employees are feeling, all without having to read through, interpret, or categorize individual responses manually. The analysis overview features 2 measures of employee feelings and opinions, represented here as employee sentiment and employee favorability. Each of these visuals are tied to specific question and answer types used in our surveys. For example, all open-ended questions that would ask employees for written responses will roll into employee sentiment. On the other hand, all rating scale questions that would ask employees to rate a statement on a 5-point rating scale roll into employee favorability. Looking at these side by side is critical because it illustrates the employee experience as told by employees in their own words versus how they would rate specific areas of the business with just a flat number score. These charts can differ substantially. That is completely fine. Our surveys emphasize open-ended questions and rating scale questions for this very reason. On one hand, you need to ask questions that evaluate topics on a sliding scale. But you also need to ask questions that allow for unexpected answers. Below these charts, you'll find a distribution of responses or the demographic makeup of the employees that responded. These demographics pull in directly from Perform. They also come into play a bit more when we look at filtering down employee responses to try to target problem areas or try to understand how a certain subpopulation of employees might have different concerns or priorities. Drilling down into employee sentiment allows us to do just that. Remember, employee sentiment represents all of the written feedback, which, through the magic of Pulse, has been read and refined using natural language processing, so that we can immediately see where that feedback lands categorically across common organizational topics like communication, leadership, and work-life balance. This paints a better picture of what is most often ailing our employees. It's a great place to start action planning and determining which items you'd like to start addressing. Supporting a diverse workforce means making sure that all voices are heard and opinions of each subset of employees aren't diluted by high-level averages. For example, let's look specifically at our employees that have been with us the longest, the tenure group of over 11 years. When we select just the responses from these participants, you can see that the general priorities and feedback has changed. According to this group, there are 3 main categories where improvements can be made: communication, leadership, and performance management. Let's take a look at another analysis highlighting a different group, perhaps a group that is underrepresented at this company, employees with a disability. Again, we can see that our categories changed. And for context, we can read employee comments and verbatims. The power of these surveys lies in the ability for leaders to understand how the employee experience can differ for each employee. We've spent some time here looking at sentiment, or written feedback. Now let's shift gears and talk about employee favorability. Remember, employee favorability houses the rating scale questions from a survey that usually identify a topic to the employee and ask for a level of satisfaction or agreement. These questions are more focused than open-ended questions, but they still help measure the attitudes or opinions of employees relative to a specific area of the business. I'm looking for broad strokes here. For example, this question asks employees about their relationship with their manager. Here we see that, yes, a decent number of employees agree that they have a good relationship with their manager. That's great, But I also see a large patch of red here that indicates there is a group of employees that do not have a good relationship with their manager. Let's see what happens if I filter here by gender. Now, we see that more often, men at our company do not have a great relationship with their manager, which makes me curious. Could this be coming from a particular department or branch? I'll narrow it down even further to the Indianapolis department. We see that 100% of the responses for men in the Indianapolis department feel they do not have a good relationship with their supervisor. It's clear when you look at cross sections of your employees, many want to be heard, but their feelings can get lost, especially if they are outnumbered by employees with a more positive or just differing experience. Searching through segments or samples of employees like this, trying to understand where employees are affected, is undoubtedly worthwhile. That's why Paycor Pulse pulls together an executive summary that automatically runs outlier analysis to see where there are large variances in the data among cross-sections of employees. We call these areas to investigate. Areas to investigate are beacons or indicators of something noteworthy in the data. It might tell you that a certain segment of your employees have no concerns in a certain area of the business, or it could tell you that certain folks are having a much worse or much better experience when it comes to the topics of leadership or work-life balance. For example, when it comes to leadership, 53% of employees are content. But when you look at the employees with a tenure of 4 to 6 years, they're having a much more positive experience. That may be something worth investigating and trying to replicate with other tenure groups. There are additional insights on the executive summary that are also conversation starters. The Employee Experience Index boils down all of the written feedback into a single number to help leaders gauge progress from survey to survey. Also, we have highlights available that show the top positive and negative categories by expression or written feedback, letting us know where we can focus our investigation or what's working and what needs improvement. For those of you that have joined me today to learn more about Pulse survey analysis, it's clear that you are interested and committed to making your organization a better environment for all your employees. We hope to help you make a difference using Paycor Pulse.